Yo, what up? How's it going? And welcome back for another video. Today's video, we'll be discussing kind of a hot topic in the community. Bjergsen's contract is up this year. A lot of failures on TSM the past 2 years, the post-double lift era. And now, more than ever, seems to be the opportunity for Bjergsen to go to another team. And if he doesn't go to another team, at least TSM's roster is probably going to explode. If not, I don't think people would be very happy. So this video is going to be discussing Bjergsen's team options. So if he would go to a team, what are the pros and cons? And then what are some possible rosters that we can create with our information that we have right now based off of free agents and players that may want to leave teams, players that are in academy, stuff like that. And for that, I've made a PowerPoint presentation. So let's just get right into it. All right, before you get all big brain on me and you're...
Bjergsen's the one holding his team back, and he ruins players and junglers.
That's not what we're talking about today. Also, if you actually think that, then you probably don't know anything about anything. Just being honest, based off of anything any player or any coach has ever played with Bjergsen says only the highest things about him, and then you can actually watch him play the game, and still see that he's a top mid in NA, and could go up with the best of them. So that's not what we're discussing today. So if you came here to do that, okay, that's fine. But that's not what we're talking about. I think you're just correct. Alrighty. So this first slide that we have right here is teams that have no incentive, or Bjergsen has no incentive to join these teams. So first we have Team Liquid. If they just swapped out Jensen for Bjergsen, that wouldn't really make a lot of sense. I mean, I am of the opinion that I think Bjergsen's, a slightly better player, but if you're slightly better than a player that already fits into your team well, there's really no point of swapping that out, and you can make an argument that Jensen's a better player, and that's fine too. So there's no real incentive there. Echo Fox is not an organization that's going to be in the LCS next year, and whenever a team takes it up, will be a new brand, and so there's not really a lot of incentive for Bjergsen to join. And the first time Echo Fox tried to sell, the team that tried to buy it ended up getting sued by the other owners of their team. So yeah, I don't think there's much incentive. Looking at Optic Gaming, they already have Crown under contract, I believe. So they already have Crown under contract. Obviously, I think Bjergsen would be an upgrade on that team, but they have a bad team infrastructure, not a very big brand in League of Legends. And they may also be selling their team. I don't know if that was confirmed yet, but they may also be selling their team. So if they were, then they'd be in the same boat as Echo Fox. Cool FlyQuest, same as Optic, and all the good stuff. Just a tiny brand, not a good roster already. Not a brand that actually attracts big name players. They just kind of take the leftovers and new people because they don't have a lot of money. Is really what it is. FlyQuest has some fans, but they didn't have a sponsor like all year. I think they have a sponsor now, but they don't have any money to support, making a championship team without like moneyballing it. And Bjergsen's not a player you're gonna be able to moneyball. Golden Guardians, same situation that FlyQuest and Optic are in. Just not a very big org. It looks like they're willing to spend the money because they got Hanser and Froggen. Seems like they're willing to spend the money, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. I believe Froggen's still under contract as well, so doesn't make any sense for Bjergsen to go there. Just seems like a worse roster if they weren't gonna make some big money moves. All right, so now some teams that maybe you could go to. This is Clutch Gaming, pros and cons. So if Bjergsen was to go to Clutch Gaming. Now this is not very likely. I don't think this is very likely at all that this happens, and we'll talk about that. All right, so what would be the pros if Bjergsen was to join this team? So Clutch is a better team. So better team as in they have a better roster. So if you look at that TSM, I'm not just saying that because Clutch beat TSM. If Clutch was to lose to TSM, they would lose because Bjergsen is, carrying a dead corpse over the finish line, which is what he tried to do. The only reason why those teams were closely matched is because Bjergsen was on the opposing team. So now just insert him into a different team, and you can say whatever you want about the play style that Demonte has and stuff like that. Bjergsen can play that play style. Even in that series of CG versus TSM, he played ultra roaming on Silas, and performed the play style better. Didn't really get down in CS or anything like that. Got down in CS a little bit, but normally you watch, Demonte's still trying to figure out this play style, I think, where it's like push and roam constantly, without getting denied too much. You're gonna get denied some if you're pushing and roaming, but like I just remember the Kiani games that he's really effective on, but he'll be down like 40 CS at 15 minutes, and Bjergsen played that style on Silas and wasn't down too much, so he can 100% play that style if that's what you have to play. Bjergsen is an ultra flexible player, so. Anyways, so a better team. Their team could make no adjustments and be, a championship caliber team. They could actually just make no adjustments other than inserting Bjergsen into the team. I'm not saying they shouldn't make adjustments, but they don't have to make any. Team would get bigger brand awareness, so this is an incentive for the team. This is going to be every single team. No matter how big the brand of them already is, you add Bjergsen to your team, that increases your brand value, especially in League of Legends. Okay, cons. The cons are they may already be invested in Demonte, and Demonte may be under contract. That wouldn't really change much because you could just put him on academy and then get a buyout and trade him if a team actually really wanted him. So if Bjergsen wanted to sign with the team, that's what they would do if he was still under contract. But they may already be invested in Demonte, so just kind of thinking if we're going to move a player around, this isn't the player we want to move around. We want to spend more time developing this player. So they might have that mindset, and that's okay too. It'd be a hard sell to not take Bjergsen. It would be kind of weird, but they may already be invested in that, so that would suck for them to get rid of the player that they're investing a lot of time into. Much smaller brand than TSM, so it would be bad for Bjergsen in terms of, his overall brand, and financially may not be able to support that. That's an assumption that financially they wouldn't be able to compete with, like a team like TSM or maybe a team like Cloud9 or somebody who's thrown a lot of money at Bjergsen, or maybe 100 Thieves. That's throwing a lot of money at Bjergsen. It'd be hard to compete with that if that was the case. If there are a lot of teams fighting over him. All right, cool. So this is where it gets fun. So clutch possible rosters. So this first roster, and this is going to be what I do on all the rosters, is just going to be the roster that they have and just insert Bjergsen into it. Cool. So the first roster we have is Huni, Lyra, Bjergsen, Cody Sun, and Vulcan. Based off performances at the end of the year, this seems pretty solid. The reason why clutch kind of works is because they have a strong top side. So when I say top side, I mean top jungle mid. They have a strong top side and then a weak side bottom lane player. So Cody Sun is a weak side bottom lane player. If you don't know what that means, it just means they play without jungle attention most of the time. And then essentially when you're a weak side AD carry player, then you specialize in team fighting, which is what Cody Sun does. And Cody Sun's actually really good at it. I've long said, this is not just like, oh, Cody was done and now he's back. I've long said I've never understood why Cody Sun isn't still playing. When he was on Immortals, he was like top 2 AD carry. And then when he was on 100 Thieves, he was playing the same. And then they just cut him for, disciplinary issues or whatever that was. And then he spends an entire split in Academy. Just gets to peek his head out. He's always been good. So anyways, there's Cody Sun. Yeah, so pretty solid team. When I'm looking at this team, if I wanted to replace one player, I'm gonna keep it kind of simple whenever I'm doing this roster stuff. I'm gonna try to make it realistic how we're swapping out players. And then some of them I'm gonna have a little bit of fun. But this one's more realistic. So if I was swapping out players on this team, I would swap out Lyra. Not that I think Lyra is bad or anything like that. I think he's a very one-dimensional jungler. He plays a lot of those level 6 junglers like Skarner, stuff like that. But he's shown he can play the J4s, stuff like that. But it seems like he much prefers the, farming pathing style, and then meet up at the neutral objective. So it seems like he really prefers that style. And I'd like if you have a top side that's Huni and Bjergsen, then playing with like a really aggressive jungler would be awesome. So that's why I have Dardoch right here. So Dardoch can play that super aggressive style. You can imagine, just playing around that top side, playing around the solos, or you can also imagine just Bjergsen pushing the wave and then 4-man diming the bottom lane, getting Cody Sun some plates, and then get him that big advantage, swap the bottom lane, the top lane, get that big advantage. And then you have, Cody Sun, who's 1,000 gold over his opponent, or 2,000 gold over his opponent, and you get to the team fights, and you have Cody Sun, Bjergsen, and Huni. Carrying your team fights, that Hooney is a great weak side player. So there's so much flexibility when you insert like a player like Dardoch or a player like Blabber into the roster. You can play around your solos, or you can four-man die bottom lane, get your bottom lane ahead, and then you know your solos aren't going to int. I mean, Hooney ints sometimes, but it hasn't been lately. He can play weak side very well. Um, so that you know that gives you so much more flexibility when you have a player like Dardoch or a player like Blabber that are willing to take those riskier plays, willing to play more aggressive, and all that good stuff. And then I just have a couple other rosters that, maybe not as, special sounding as the other ones before, or exciting as the two that I just talked about before. But I have one with Santorin, who was obviously great in spring and didn't do much in summer. I think he had a bad roster in general, so maybe was just, good luck in spring. Have a lot of lanes he can play around. Pobelter is just a team fight player, not a lane dominant player at all. Wild Turtle and Wadid and JJ, just not a very powerful bottom lane, just not going to get you advantages. Then he has Viper, who is kind of figuring stuff out as well. So I still believe in Santorin. So you add Santorin on this team. He's more of a pathing-minded jungler, but can make those aggressive plays. So that's cool. He's super smart player. You have Amazing over here. I put on this roster. If you wanted to. I just had added Amazing to this. Amazing is a super smart player. I don't know if he's the best fit on honestly any team. But he's like a more of a cerebral type jungler, a jungler like type of like scorer. Like that, like Korean style, where he's really, he's just really smart. And when you hear him talk about the game, that's what impresses me when I hear people talk about the game, and I know they really understand the game and how it works. Sometimes you have players that just really don't actually understand the game. They understand the game from their perception or from their point of view, but they don't understand the game much more than that. All right, let's talk about CLG. And I have CLG listed as a possible, so this could happen. I don't think the clutch is going to happen. I think maybe this could happen, but I also don't think it's very likely, but could happen. So the pros, they're a better team, so a better roster. You insert Bjergsen into that team. That team's automatically better than TSM's current roster with Bjergsen on it. You can elevate their brand, so that's going to be for every team. Every team gets bigger brand awareness when you add Bjergsen to your team. Cons, smaller brand, not too much smaller, but definitely smaller. If you're talking League of Legends, you're talking TSM, Cloud9, and Team Liquid. That's what you're talking about, and maybe 100 Thieves are coming up into there, so they're making some big money moves. All right, similar skilled team. So as I said, they're a better team, but in terms of what their players can do and where your strong sides of the map is, actually kind of a similar team. So they would probably need to make roster adjustments right here. So they're a slightly better team if you add Bjergsen onto it than TSM is currently. But they have a very similar skill team. So we probably need to make more roster adjustments than, let's say, Clutch, where you just had to change one player on the team to make it really great. Cool. All right, so this is just the first one, as I said before, is going to insert Bjergsen into the roster. So we have Ruin, Wiggly, Bjergsen, Stixay, Biofrost. Let's talk about what CLG's roster actually does. Before you even insert Bjergsen into there. So you have a very flexible bottom lane, meaning that they can play weak side or strong side. They do very good at playing strong side, which is great. Stixay can play weak side or strong side. Actually, he's a very balanced, a very well-rounded player in terms of the laning phase. Because Biofrost can play those range supports. They can play the Caitlyn Morganas, slam lane, make people hug tower. You just need your jungler to shadow that lane. They can also play weak side where Biofrost is playing engage supports, and you just play aggressive whenever your jungler's around, and then you're looking to play team fights. And Stixay can play team fights great. Biofrost plays team fights very good on engaged type champions, all the way back to his TSM days. So they actually have a really flexible bottom lane that can play both sides. So if you wanted to, you could play around Bjergsen, or you imagine those 4-man dives onto the bottom lane. Ruin is a weak side top laner player, so he plays well on the weak side. He does usually get behind in lane, but also he usually plays weak side. He's a decent weak side player. I wouldn't say he's the best, but he's a decent weak side player. So you can have a weak side, top side. You can play around mid, jungle, and bottom. You can look for those 4-man dives like I talked about before. Get Stixay out of lane, look for those team fights, and have pretty explosive team fights. Okay, the two players that I would move around on this team mostly would be jungle and top. You can say whatever you want about Ruin. I think he's an okay player. Um, does decent on weak side, but he's not like Impact weak side. Impact is the best weak side player maybe in the world. His weak side play is insane. Um, Ruin normally play weak side, and then he plays for team fights, but his weak side plays okay. All right. So, and then I think Wiggly was great all year and very underperformed in the playoffs, which is not what you want to see. But also, he's a young player, so maybe in the future it's not like that. But let's just move some stuff around. All right. So, I have Someday on a lot of these. I think he may be under contract, but if Hunter Thieves can't figure out a way to get him starting, he should be traded to another team, and a team would be willing to buy him out. So that's why I'm gonna have him on all this stuff. I think 100 Thieves is going to figure out how to put him in the roster, and all they need to do is get a new mid laner, or a new jungler, to fix that. And I think they're gonna do both of those. So, or maybe keep their jungler. All right. So this other roster is just inserting Someday. So this makes your roster so much better because Someday can play weak side and he can play strong side. So, and reliably, much more reliably than Ruin can. So it gives you so much flexibility. 6-8 Bifrost can play weak side if you want to. You can play around top side. So it makes drafting against this team so difficult because it's really tough when you have a one-dimensional team like, oh, this team wants to play around bot lane and they can't do it the other way. They can't play strong side top, weak side bottom, or strong or mid jungle. But whenever you have this roster, you can actually play around any lane you want, and all of these players are actually good at playing weak side. So a lot of times you'll see teams that just have like great strong side players and like carry players, and you're looking at them and you're like, oh wow, this team's gonna be insane. But then none of them are very good at playing weak side, and it makes your team kind of explode. But all these players would be willing to play weak side or strong side, based off of what I know about these players personally. Um, so that'd be really cool. You'd actually be able to move stuff around pretty well. Okay. This other one is all the rest of them are going to be Someday or Ruin. They kind of work either way, except for Someday gives you a lot more flexibility. So Dardoch, as I said before, and Blabber, I'm going to have them on a lot of these lists, and I'm going to be switching out junglers for. Cloud9's the only team I don't switch out the jungler for, I think. So it just gives you a lot more flexibility in the early game. You can look for some really explosive stuff if you have Someday, Dardoch, Bjergsen, 6-8 Bifrost. That's insane, bro. You can make so many plays. Same thing with Blabber. And then just play for the team fights. Dardoch's a great team fight player. If you guys don't remember, like Echo Fox playing his Zac play, like when Zac was like barely meta and you had to ban it. You had to like ban it when you're on red side and blue side because they're willing to take it in the first rotation. It was like insane. Cool. And now this last one, I was just having a little bit of fun. This is, you can take Someday or Ruin, you can take Wiggly, Dardoch, or Blabber. Any of them are fine. I actually prefer Dardoch and Blabber to most junglers right now. I think they're some of the best junglers in the league, and they're not getting the play, so that kind of blows. And then Bjergsen, and then over here I just had fun. Stixay's contract is up, and so Sven is in upsets. Say what you want about Sven. If you're like, Sven, lol, he's bad. Ugh. Sven's a great player. He's made his mistakes, but you give him the gold and he'll make it happen most of the time. So he's a great team fight player, a great, solid, stable player. Stixay is also great, so I'm not even saying this up. This is more of a side grade. And Upset's a similar player to Sven. He's been having a really good year this year, but if you give him the money, he'll win the lane. He's really similar to 6A. He can play to win the lane. And then you give him the gold, he swaps the top side, gets all that gold, and then he'll win you the team fight and you win the game. So Upset's a great player. And if he added Upset on the team, you could literally just have him play weak side every game, and if you had like Someday Dardoch, Bjergsen, it'd be insane. And then Bifrost, you don't ever need to switch him out. Great player. Pretty flexible player. All right, Cloud9. This one it starts to get interesting. Because now we're in super team territory. So Cloud9 pros and cons. I have this one listed as a possible as well. I don't think it's going to happen, but it could happen. Niski is still under contract, so that'd be kind of interesting. You'd have to figure out where Golden God would go and Niski, and it would be a whole situation to figure out. But teams do crazy things, bro. All right, pros. Super team is possible. So without making any other roster adjustments, you insert Bjergsen to the team. You might have a super team. Similar size brand to TSM, so it wouldn't hurt Bjergsen's brand. Maybe a little bit just him leaving TSM hurts, but if he were going to leave for a team, Cloud9 would be a great option. Oh, you'll give Cloud9 their brand boost, and Svenskeren is kind of daddy, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you can reunite Svenskeren and Bjergsen. Say what you want about Bjergsen ruining junglers. I don't think that's founded at all. I think it's more of a TSM issue. And, somewhat of a TSM issue. I think it's more of the players at their time in their career when they come to TSM. Obviously TSM has an issue with young players. Isn't working out. But for example, I'll just go off on a little tangent really quick. If you know Svenskeren at all, anything about his career, because everybody knows him as, great player in Europe, comes over to TSM, has some shining moments, but then kind of becomes pacified. Then comes to Cloud9, has a year where he's okay, and then this year he's amazing again. So let me tell you a little bit about Svenskeren's career. Whenever he played in Europe, and you can hear Svenskeren say this himself, that was when the league was in its early days, and it was kind of the Wild West where you did whatever you want. And he said himself that he went and played, and he was just like, I just walked around killing people. I did whatever I wanted, and I don't really, I just played for myself. And then when you come over to the TSM, you're on a big team. He didn't know how to actually play on a structured team, and TSM is very rigid and very so a player like that, whenever you go to a team, you're a young player and you're the one who's new and you're the one who doesn't actually know how to do team play and stuff like that, you kind of take a back seat and second guess yourself a lot. And then when you come to Cloud9, you already have the experience of being on a structured team, and Cloud9's a structured team, not as rigid as TSM. You come there, and then you're figuring out how to play with that team, and then now you're more comfortable with the team environment type of stuff. So you had a ramp up period for the first year, and then the second year he's super comfortable on Cloud9. He's grown as an adult individual, and it plays a whole lot better. So I think there is some type of TSM issue, but I think it's more so young players come in, like Svenskeren, like Santorin early in his career, like Mike Young. Like Mike Young was kind of weird anyways. Like Mike Young, like amazing early in his career. They have these young players come in and have to acclimate them to the team environment. And Cadian himself, he said he had to learn a lot this year. I thought Cadian had a good year, but seems to be internal issues. Okay, cons. So satisfied with Niski in mid jungle. They might already be satisfied with Niski. If you don't think Bjergsen's a better player than Niski, I don't know where you've been. And I don't know if you've watched the finals, Cloud9 versus Team Liquid, but Bjergsen doesn't get dumpstered in lane, 4 games out of 5 by Jensen in a series. It happens the other way around. So that should tell you a lot about that. But they might not want to break their existing mid-jungle synergy, but I think Bjergsen can play any style. So if they wanted to play that style with Bjergsen, that'd be great. All right, cool. So this is Cloud9 possible roster. So this is with no roster changes. As I said before, we have Licorice, Sven, Bjerg, Sneaky, and Zazel. Already, that's super team caliber. The only thing to say about this team, you kind of know what they're going to do. You know their bottom lane is going to play weak side, which Cloud9's been running that special forever. You can play just the mid-jungle synergy that they've been doing. So it's Sven Bjerg, same thing as Sven Niski. Wait, Sven Bjerg. And this works out really well. The reason why this works out really well for Cloud9 is because Licorice is such a good player, actually. Licorice is the most important part of this team when you want to run the style that they run, because they run weak side, bottom side, and almost run weak side, top side. But Licorice is such a good player that he's able to handle that. He can pick Aatrox and not die in lane and go even in CS, or slam people sometimes, which, you watch a player like, Ruin play Aatrox, or Broken Blade play Aatrox, and they'll get slammed in lane, which you're supposed to lose lane in a lot. He has a lot of terrible matchups. I think Aatrox is maybe slightly overrated as a pick unless you're very good on him. He's drafted as a weak side top laner, but he's not actually very good at playing weak side. It's kind of weird. But anyways, this team is so good because of Licorice, actually, because Licorice is such a good player. All right, now we get fun with this stuff, and we just insert different AD carries, because I think, I don't feel like I have to say this, but, obviously Sneaky's a good player, but if you're looking at this roster, Sneaky's the worst player on the team. Okay? Just deal with it. Nothing against Sneaky as a player. He had a bottom, he was in the bottom 5 AD carries this year for sure, and was on, maybe the second or maybe the best team. So deal with it. Um, anyway, Sneaky doesn't have to leave the team, but if he was to leave the team, it would improve the overall performance on the Rift that we can see now. Maybe it wouldn't, but we're gonna play with that idea. All right, we add Cody Sun onto the team. It's just a better Sneaky. He's better in lane. He's better at team fighting. Boom, cool. Same thing with Sven. Better in lane. Similar team fight performance, honestly. Lately, at least. All right. This is where it gets fun. We got an Upset into the team. I think Upset is the best of these players. Maybe Cody Sun. He's pretty hot right now. Cody Sun's so hot right now. So there we go. And then this last one, I just made 2016 TSM. This isn't happening. I just wanted to have fun. we just swap out Licorice for Haunter, Sven, Bjerg, somehow get double lift and Biofrost, and there we go. There's no way that's happening, but I was just having fun with that. Alrighty, 100T. I think this is the most possible of any team if he's gonna leave a team. If he's gonna leave a team and join a different one, I think this is the most possible of all the options because 100 Thieves need a mid laner. And Bjergsen needs a team, and he needs to, have some financial incentive as well. It wouldn't make any sense for him to take a big contract drop off, and 100 Thieves are willing to make some big money moves. You know what I'm saying? Cool. So pros, potential super team. You insert them into the roster, you have a potential super team. Maybe make a couple of adjustments, but potential super team. You have they can match you financially. That's an assumption of mine. They're willing to make those big money moves. They did exit Call of Duty. A lot of people are like, but they just exited Call of Duty. Well, Call of Duty was franchising, and they weren't willing to pay the franchising fee. But at the same time they left Call of Duty, they joined CS:GO. It's hard to be a new org and franchise into. They're already franchising the League of Legends. That's super expensive already. So, I don't think a lot of people really believe in the Call of Duty model, anyways. But anyways, all right, that's neither here nor there. Give 100 Thieves a big brand boost, so they have incentive to pick him up, and they need him on the roster. And they just got Papa Smithy, which is the greatest person in the league scene. Smart, super smart, intelligent guy, and he's the general manager of their team. If you don't know anything about Papa Smithy, you need to check him out. If you're watching this video, I would assume you know Papa Smithy. So, anyways, all right, cons. They are a newer brand, so they might be doing a couple things weird, a couple things wrong. And they kind of have a history of mismanagement. The Meteos debacle, the Cody Sun debacle. It seems like they're learning from that, and they just hired Papa Smithy, so to be the manager of the team. Come on, man. Alrighty, okay. Look, here's some 100 T's possible rosters. So obviously this first one isn't a super team because Fake God and Amazing are on the team. Amazing's fine. Amazing could be on a super team roster. You don't need all 5 players. The key thing to a super team is actually, kind of contrary to what I was trying to say right there, is you have 5 players on your team who could be the star of another team, or at least 4 players on the team. But anyways, obviously this first team it's super desirable because you still have Fake God playing. So Fake God, Amazing, Bjergsen, Bang, Afro. You could someday still on the team, and I believe he's still contract, so this would never be the roster, because the reason why Fake God is playing is because Ryu is having to play mid, and Amazing is their jungler, because Anda and Saligo are too bad to play. So that's why they have to do that. Cool, so there's this roster. So Fake God, Amazing, Bjergsen, Bang, Afro. I'm not going to talk about this roster too much because it's not going to happen. Let's talk about this one. Someday, Anda or Amazing. Either way, Bjerg, Bang, Afro. Anda is a weird player. I'm just going to talk about this first. Anda is a very weird player. He makes a lot of boneheaded mistakes, but actually plays team fights really well. There's some games that I've VOD reviewed, and Anda will single-handedly, he'll play a team fight perfectly, and if he didn't play it perfectly, they would have lost the fight. Like some Xin Zhao plays and stuff like that. And I'm like, wow, that was really good. And he played really well at Worlds. Actually, last year he was the only player who played well on 100 Thieves at Worlds. But he makes a lot of boneheaded pathing stuff and a lot of mistakes where he invades Krugs when he has no business doing it, and then dies at Krug. Just a bunch of weird shit like that. A lot of stuff that Contracts does as well. A bunch of weird shit. So anyways, and then Amazing, already talked about him. He's a pathing jungler, smart, really smart player. So insert either of those, it's fine right there. Someday, already talked about him. Probably the best top laner in the league still. Bjergsen, Bang, Afro. So Bang is actually a weak side AD carry. I know I've said that a lot. He's a weak side AD carry. That's what he's been doing his entire career. Get him to team fights. He plays like nuts. I remember right when Kaisa got released and just seeing him actually do the Kaisa stuff where you dive into the backline 1v3. And I was like, oh my God, this is insane. This is when he was on SKT. Cool. We have Bang and Afro. So weak side team fighting players is what they'll do. Can synergize with Bjergsen. They can just play strong side on this team. So similar to a lot of the teams we've already seen. Insert Dardoch into the roster. You could do all the things I said before. You could 4-man dive bottom. You can play purely around top side. You can do mid jungle. You can do or jungle top. You can do all that stuff, dude. You can have some crazy plays, super flexible roster. Same thing with Blabber, and same thing with actually a slot on Acadian right here. My main man Acadian, I gave him some slack right here. So if you don't get Dardoch, you don't get Blabber. Acadian is actually a similar player to these two. I think Dardoch is the best of these three players, but then you can roll with that. All right, Hunt Thieves is the most exciting one and the most possible, I think. All right, TSM. Let's talk about TSM. Let's talk about if he doesn't leave TSM. I think this is the most likely thing that's going to happen is he actually doesn't leave TSM, and there's a bunch of reasons why. So let's talk about pros. It's a tried and true. It's where he's been the whole time, other than Copenhagen Wolves. It's where he's been the whole time, apart from Copenhagen Wolves. So it's just tried and true, man. He knows it. It's his area. He's a boss, bro. Huge brand, biggest brand in League of Legends esports. Either them, Team Liquid, or Cloud9, like we said before. He's already the face of this franchise, so he's already probably gets so much. He has so much cred. He gets so much money. He gets so much sponsors, stuff like that, because he's already the face of this franchise. It'd be cool for a player to stay their entire esports career, stay with the one team. Obviously play for Copenhagen Wolves, but that was kind of before League was really a thing. Financially, they have some of the most money in esports, or the most money in League of Legends esports at least, so they can match anybody. This is a thing that's kind of rumored that Bjergsen might actually have equity in TSM. So if you don't know, equity is part ownership. So he might actually have part ownership of the team at this point. And so if he was to leave the team and join another team, that would most likely be a conflict of interest, and he would have to sell his equity. So that might be a big incentive for him to actually stay on the team because he's in it for long haul. Cons, stagnation. You're in the same place for too long. Nothing changes. Nothing improves. And sometimes you just need a fresh thing. And also, they need a major roster makeover. So I spent a lot of time making these rosters. This one was really hard to do because I was trying to deal with players that I think are available and I think they could possibly get, but it was very tough. Okay, so I actually have BB on every single one of these. It's because he's under contract, and I believe they nabbed him up for 3 years, but they could totally bench him. So you could insert Someday or Huni in any of these because Huni's actually available this year. So, but I just chose to have more fun with the jungler and the AD carry position and the support position. I had a lot of fun with this roster. Okay, let's look at this roster. This is the roster that just lost. BB, Spica, Bjerg, Sven, and Smoothie. Let's talk about this roster real quick. BB had a bad series, but I think BB is still a great player. Had a great spring, actually. The latter half of spring was one of the best top laners. I think he made the third team. Actually had an overall good year. At the end of the year, left some to be desired, but he also didn't have that. He was doing so well with Acadian, actually, when they played together and get him leads and then actually snowball that lead. And then you could tell with Spica that it just wasn't going to happen. I mean, I don't blame Spica for these problems. He was put in so late into the team. Not really his fault. And probably felt like he just needed to, kind of be a ward bot and do what everybody else wants him to do. I mean, that's how I would feel if I was a new player coming into a team that's in playoffs. So I'm not going to fault Spica. But Spica, what we saw was not that good. But if you don't know who Spica is, he'll have like 3 accounts in the top 10 challenger all the time. I've always seen him up there. So he's a great player, but I just don't know what's going to happen with him. So he's going to be the position I slot out the most. Then Bjergsen, Sven. I think Sven overall had a good year. And I'm really sad that Sven's not, popping off and doing that stuff. He had some undesirable performances, but Smoothie, thing about Smoothie is I don't know what Smoothie actually brings to this team. He doesn't win lane really most of the time. He does okay in team fights. He's fine. When anybody says the player's good at shot calling, whenever I hear that, I either think they don't know what they're talking about at all, or they're like living in a a season 5, season 6 fantasy. The age of shot calling is over. Like if you have a player on your team or if all of your players on the team don't know anything about the game enough that they need one player to courier them around and teach them about the game all the time, then you're just a bad team in this day and age. Obviously, what I think of a shot caller nowadays is a team that can regroup the team, be like, all right, guys, we need to focus on this. We should play for mountain. Like we should play for mountain. Let's set it up. Sometimes that needs to just be one person saying that. But if you're on a professional team and you're at a high level team, then you should all know at this point we should set up for the mountain drake if it's time to set up for the mountain drake. You know what I mean? But sometimes it just needs somebody saying that out loud. I don't actually think the Smoothie's that player for that team. I think it's Bjergsen and Sven or sometimes BB. If you ever watch anything of the TSM Legends or the stuff with before the games, stuff like that, it's always BB talking. Bjergsen's always been an in-game leader. So whenever people talk about Smoothie shot calling, it's more of just like in team fights, he's a person yelling the most and saying the target. So he's like he's like Varus, 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 mouth fight, mouth fight, mouth fight, mouth fight, mouth, 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 I have ult, I have ult, I have ult, I have ult, I have ult. He's just more like a squirrel type player, you know what I mean? Not really like directing the team. So I don't actually know what he brings to this team. I think he's very average on every part of the game. And if you wanted him for shot calling, I don't think he does this for this team. So I think he could be on the team and it'd be fine too. I'm not trying to shit on the guy, but Sven Smoothie left a lot to be desired for, and I don't know what Smoothie actually brings to this team. Cool. So I just inserted Dardoch into the roster. So when you have Dardoch, you can have that old top jungle type of deal that was going on with Acadian and BB. It makes a very similar roster to what we had before, so this isn't super exciting either. But you can think about Spring TSM where they played a lot around the solos, got to the team fights, and won the team fights. And had some decent setup around objectives and stuff like that. All right, let's look at this roster. So it's kind of the same thing. We inserted Blabber. So Blabber and Dardoch do very similar things. And this is where it gets kind of interesting. I just put Hakuho on the team. He's a better laning support. I don't even know if he's better than Smoothie, honestly. It's hard to tell. He was on Echo Fox this past year, and that team was so bad. And you have Sven or Upset who do very similar things. We've already talked about it. So that's just having fun with that roster. I'm having more fun with some moving around. So we have BB again, and obviously you can just replace BB with Huni or Someday if that's possible. I know Huni's contract is up, and then I don't think Someday's actually going to leave 100 Thieves. I think they're going to figure out a way to make him play, and he's going to be happy with that. All right, so you have BB or Huni. Let's say that. You get Kadril. Kadril's a super smart player. If you don't watch LEC, when he comes on the analyst desk, like what sold me on Kadril is when he comes on the analyst desk and he talks about the game, I'm like, wow, this guy actually knows a lot. He's a young player, so Kadril were amazing, but I'll take Kadril with this too. I just put amazing on there just to give him a solid. That's just getting fun. We're importing people now. So BB, Kadril, that takes up your 2 imports. Bjergsen, and then you just take Clutch's bottom lane. Cody Sun Vulcan. That team looks pretty solid to me. Yeah, BB, Kadril. Kadril's like more of a cerebral jungler, but is willing to make those early game plays. So you can play weak side bottom lane, play around your solos, or you can 4-man dive bottom. You can do that shit with Cody Sun Vulcan. Vulcan's a great team fight support. All right, and then we look over here. BB, Cold or Selfmade. Cold's more of a cerebral type jungler. Selfmade's more of a hyphy player. Makes some boneheaded plays. If you saw him in spring, he was amazing. In summer, he's kind of okay. But Cold and Selfmade, I'm just throwing them bones right there. I think they're very good players. Bjerg, Cody Sun, and I just threw them Biofrost. Let's say they get Biofrost. That'd be awesome as well. Biofrost is a great laning support and a great team fight support. I think Vulcan might be the better team fight support. I think Vulcan's very good in the team fights on his Rakan play and stuff like that. But Biofrost is great at that stuff too. And that's just getting the roster interesting. So key thing with TSM is they have to make a lot of changes to make this work. And I believe in them to do it, but they would have to make so many changes to make it work, where you go to a team like 100 Thieves and they just have to switch out one player for it to be good. Once you add Bjerg to the team, Someday can play again, and then they just got to find a new jungler. Or Amazing was fine too, so you keep Amazing and your team is great. So I think most likely he stays on TSM, but if he leaves, I think he'll go to 100 Thieves if he leaves. That's pretty much the obvious choice. Papa Smithy is there, and it's a team that needs a mid laner. So anyways, this video is getting super long, so I'm going to end it right here. Thank you so much if you stayed with the entire journey. I worked really hard on this video, so if you could give it a like and all that good stuff. If you don't want to, that's fine too. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye. Bye. Bye.